Now, there are also, apart from the Facebook group where not a single soul mentioned these things, and I'm completely disappointed. At one point, I was even, I would say, disgusted. I was disgusted that no one mentioned these things. Why? Because the fact that no one mentions these things, for me personally, I don't know every single person's soul or life or experience, etc. But for me personally, it was an indicator that kind of reaffirmed what I had begun to see about the various groups online. And that being that many of the people in those groups, if not most, I don't know, there's tons of people in there. I haven't interacted with everyone. But based on my experience, a lot of people in those groups are heretics. A lot of people in those groups, sadly, are godless. Okay? Because there are even people in there mocking saints. People posting pictures with their wife dressed like a prostitute. And of course I don't mean literally a secular prostitute, but wearing immodest clothing that is not appropriate. You know, her shoulders exposed or her knees may be exposed. All this stuff. I'm like, what is traditional Catholic about this? What is traditional Catholic about this? Nothing. Nothing about it. So, for example, I posted a quote from Saint Aloysius Gonzaga from his life story, his biography, where it mentioned that he never looked women in the face as a way to mortify his eyes and avoid the possibility of temptation, right? Can you believe there was a godless fool in there who mocked Saint Aloysius? I was like, you're in a quote unquote traditional Catholic group and you're mocking Saint Aloysius? You are a dog. You're a dog. You are a godless dog. How can you mock a saint? And I don't understand. I don't understand how someone can call themselves a Catholic, let alone a traditional Catholic, and mock a saint and be totally comfortable with that. Like, you have to be you have to be in complete and utter spiritual darkness. Really. Like, you have to be in complete and total blindness. I think you're even worse than a Protestant. I think that person is worse than a Protestant. Because at least a Protestant openly confesses that they don't believe in the Catholic Church or anything. But you claim to be a Catholic? You claim to be a traditional Catholic, perhaps? And you are mocking a saint? And it's those kinds of things, and just the overall heresy that I saw as well. People professing a bunch of heresy in those groups and stuff. I was like, wow. It really just showed me that those groups are just infested with just open, public, brazen heretics. Okay? And so I don't really interact in those groups as much as I used to. I may post a video or something. If God wills, for example, for someone to see a certain video that may, do certain things for their salvation, perhaps. But as far as, reading comments, interacting with people and all that stuff, I don't do it anymore because you're going to see a bunch of filth. And the thing about reading comments is that, sure, there may be good comments. Maybe even most comments may be good comments. But the bad comments are the ones that are truly dangerous, especially with regards to church teaching. Because there's no danger, of course, in seeing someone agree with the truth. It's wonderful. Praise be to God. God bless them for believing the truth and accepting the truth and all that stuff. May the Lord save their soul. But when you see the heresy, that's the danger, okay? Because, as I mentioned in the last video as well, we should not have an overconfidence whereby we believe that we are indefectible, that we can't possibly lose the faith. Reading the filthy words of a godless heretic or some godless individual that may profess to be a Catholic but is in fact a heretic, mocking saints and stuff like that, reading the words of such a person is like reading poison. It is dangerous for the soul. It can cause doubt. It can cause weakening of faith, weakening of zeal, a whole bunch of stuff. That's why the church has always warned her children to avoid being too familiar with heretics. Saint Cyril of Jerusalem said, hate all heretics. Okay? That's what a saint said. Hate all heretics. Avoid them if you value your salvation. You know? And of course, you pray for the salvation of these heretics. You don't wish them to go to hell. But you despise their faithlessness. You despise their heresy. You condemn their godless garbage. You understand? But, yeah. So, I was very disappointed by that. That no one in those groups mentioned the Legion of Decency that I saw. And overall, it kind of reemphasized for me what I was learning at that time, that, you know, a lot of people in those groups and stuff, these groups online, a lot of them, I won't say every single one, because I don't know every single person, or I don't know everyone in every single group. But a lot of these groups are infested, sadly, with people who seem to not be obsessed with their salvation. And you should be obsessed with your salvation. Because right now especially, 99.99% of people on the earth today are on the highway to eternal darkness. Eternal hellfire and torment. 99.99. And even regarding the church itself, saints, fathers, doctors, all this stuff, I mean, I think they almost unanimously, if not unanimously, the vast majority that I've seen, if not all that I've seen regarding this certain subject, have taught that even most Catholics go to hell. So, we all know, if you believe the truth, everyone who does will say the church goes to hell. But even most Catholics who are in the church go to hell too. So who is saved then? Right? It's like, hold on. People who say the church is going to hell. 99%, well, all of them who don't say the church is going to hell. Most Catholics going to hell too. Right? According to these saints, fathers, daughters, all this stuff. So who's going to heaven? Who is saved? And this is a question that I personally have, you know, meditated upon for maybe going on like a year now, I think, is when I first really started thinking about that fact more in depth. And I'm starting to think, like, those who are saved, the vast majority of this small number of people who are saved, they're the saints, okay? The saints are the ones who are saved. The saints are the ones who are going to heaven. You understand? And obviously, most Catholics are not saints. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to even call them saints. If every Catholic was a saint, you wouldn't have to have a certain category of person that you call a saint, right? If everybody's a saint, then nobody has to be called a saint because they're all just Catholics. The saints are the ones who are saved. So what do you have to do? What do you have to do to be saved? You have to become a saint too. That's how you get to heaven. Because it's very rare that God will give someone a deathbed conversion. Very rare. I think, was it St. Augustine? It may have been St. Augustine. I heard it in some sermon, I believe. One of the sermons I listened to. I think St. Augustine said, it will be a greater miracle for God to convert a godless person at death than to raise someone from the dead. It will be a greater miracle for God to save someone who lived a godless life, give them a deathbed conversion at the last minute or whatever, right? That will be a greater miracle than raising someone from the dead. And this is one of the reasons regarding specifically the sin of impurity. And those who don't know, impurity is, carnal sin. Impurity is such a powerful vice one of the sermons I listened to mentioned that the vice of impurity takes such a strong hold upon the soul that in most cases it is easier for God to separate the soul from the body, for the person to die, than to separate the sin from the person's soul. Because with that vice, it's almost like the sin fuses with the person's soul so intimately that it is a tremendous miracle for God to liberate the person from that vice. It is easier for them to just die in sin than to be freed from it, right? And the sermon mentioned that that's why when God told Noah that he would destroy the earth with the flood, Noah didn't even pray for the earth. He didn't even say, oh, God, please spare them or anything like that. God, please do anything to free them or what's not, help them repent or nothing like that. He said Noah didn't even pray for them because Noah understood, they're completely and totally absorbed in impurity. That's why the Bible said the thoughts of man are flesh continually. That's what it means. Flesh means lust, impurity. That's the problem. That was what was wrong with the earth in Noah's time. The same thing wrong with our earth today. Constant impurity, 24/7 filth, sodomy, debauchery, prostitute, all that stuff. Constantly. That's what was going on back then. That's what's going on today. That vice is so difficult to free people from that Noah didn't even bother to pray about it. He was like, okay, God, just destroy the earth, thanks. Go ahead, flood it, please. Just clean the earth. Noah didn't even pray about it. He didn't pray for them or anything, right? So, knowing that today, most people are on the highway to hell, you should be obsessed with your salvation. And if you're obsessed with your salvation, you should be obsessed with knowing whether or not it is a sin for you to do the things you do. You should want to know, is it a sin for me to go to this place? Is it a sin for me to talk to this person? Is it a sin for me to listen to this music? Is it a sin for me to watch this movie? Is it a sin for me to play this video game? Is it a sin for me to watch this TV show? All these questions you must ask yourself. Everything you do, at least when it's something that, is related to morality. Of course, it's not sin to take a shower, okay? But things that have any moral implication to them or can have a moral implication, you should ask yourself, is this a sin? You should want to know. And I think, personally, if you ask yourself that question, most people today on the earth watch movies, watch TV shows. That's like basically just another aspect of modern life today. So the question of what movies are lawful to watch, what TV shows are lawful to watch, all that stuff, these should be questions that every person who professes to be Catholic or traditional Catholic or anything like that should be asking themselves. And these things should be widely researched in, those circles of people. And yet, I haven't seen, personally, of course I haven't read every single thing on the internet. Someone may have talked about it. But it's not so common that I found it easily or anything like that.